So you've already seen inheritance. What is inheritance? Amir, going to your remote.
Relationship between two classes.
The relationship between two classes. Yeah, that works.
You put it right in front of me. I'm not going to be able to.
I know. Would have been even worse if I said, no, that's wrong. No, that's wrong. So let's get into some coding right now. So I'm going to cd, I'm going to cp delete. I'm going to make a directory called inherit cd code. Sorry. And I'm going to create a file, touch example, right here. So inheritance is, if, for example, we have dogs. So I'm going to create a class dog. And dog has specific attributes to them. What are some? Legs. I should just do size and age and name. Is that a true or false value? Equals, but yeah. And then self dot size equals size. Self dot age equals age. Self dot name equals name. But a class or a dog, there could be many different types of dogs, like different breeds. So what if we had a class like a Labrador class? What's that? Yes, I'm recording. Thank you for double checking. So a lab also has self.size, age, name. And I'm moving back up here to the dog class. What are some methods that dogs can do? They can eat. All right, eat. Let's just say print. Yeah, nom. Nom works. They can bark. So lab also has these same like attributes. So instead of writing all like self-size dog but what if like the bark is different between the lab? Like this is the basic bark a dog is doing. What if I wanted to change? I'm just gonna copy and paste this down here. So a lab is also a dog, right? So how do I inherit these dog attributes? How does a lab inherit the dog attributes?
Outside right by class and lab, you put the name of the class it's inheriting from.
Like that, great. So the dog is the parent class of lab. And as we saw before, we can initialize, how did it go? We did dog, dot, dot, init, dot, dot. To the side. Do we need then? Yeah, we did. And then what if a dog had like, or the lab had a different attribute like can fetch? So self dot can fetch equals can fetch. So now let's just initialize this lab. New puppy equals lab dot size big age 2 name Fluffy can fetch true. So let's print new puppy. Puppy dot do name. Let's run this example file. So I'm down here in the terminal, I'm doing Python example for inheritance. Oh no, the 5 are given. Do I need this self? Wait, 5 are given.
You need a double under.
Double under in your underneath the lab. This just only got 1.
Thank you. Well, example line 20, new puppy lab 1, 2, 3, 4. Type error init takes 4. 5 are given. Okay, cool, Fluffy. But what if I wanted Fluffy to bark? So I can do dot bark. So lab, let's see what happens. I'm gonna run this real quick. Found method dog bark main. If I invoke it, will that work? Cool. Why did it print?
Because
Oh, okay.
new puppy.bark returns
Yeah, where you print. Oh, okay.
or puppy.bark or dog.bark doesn't return anything. So you're printing the return value from that function is none.
Let's try that again. Oh,
I mean, if you just take off print from new puppy bark, it'll print. Yeah.
so what if I wanted to? What if the lab had a different bark than like the default dog bark? How do I change, or how do I?
You redefine the method within the child class.
So if I wanted the lab bark to be different than like the default dog bark, Marco said, I redefine the bark method in the child class, which is lab.
Use baseline bark and then modify it. Return
So let's run this new puppy dot bark and let's see what gets returned. I clear this in the terminal. I'm gonna run the Python example. I'm a lab barking. So what it's doing, it's looking in the lab, seeing if there's any bark method. If there isn't, it's going to default to the parent. So it's gonna look at the child first and then look at the parent if there's anything. Yes.
So can you update attributes?
Like update these attributes?
How you updated the back method, the lab class? Can we update the attributes that already been inherited?
So like updating the size?
Yes, in new class.
So like, well, I would just be invoking. So I'm creating like the lab will always be like the parents, like those attributes will be the same. Now I could like say like update, well, let's see what happens if I say like update size. I'm not sure what's going to happen here. Then I'm going to new puppy dot update size bigger. I'm going to print new puppy dot size. Yes. So you can update the yeah. Because this is essentially just returning the self.size, self.age. I'm going to do another one. Employee. We have a class called employee. Now, we have a, I'm going to copy this over here. And then we have a, so this is an employee, it takes in first name, last name, and then pay. And then it has an email that will be set to a string, which it takes in the first name, last name, and it's appending that .email, and it's making it lowercase. Just delete this part. I don't want that. So each employee has like a title as well. Self.position. And that will inherit the employee. Or not develop, let's do an actual developer. So in here, let's do employee. So here we have a developer that's also an employee that's going to inherit all the initial attributes from employee. But it also has a language. As a developer, we know Python, JavaScript, anything else, C++, Ruby. And in the past, we would invoke employee by doing employee.init. But instead of having to invoke employee every time, we can actually do super. So what is that super doing? It's essentially looking at whatever parent is and invoking that method. So I'm going to go up into employee. I'm going to just create another method, some method. And I'm going to return, this is a method in employee class. And then within the developer class, I'm going to create a method called what's in employee, just to show you. Okay, super dot, then I have when I do, it's essentially like calling employee. Now I have access to all these methods in the employee.
Which only adds function, really adds functionality if you have already overwritten it. So like if for some reason, as if you had some method in developer, but this is the developer method, then but you wanted to call the employee version of it, you secretly do that.
Correct. Yes.
Other than that, you already have access to something that is inherited.
Right. But I just want to show you like kind of what super does and how you already have access to all the methods in the parent class. So, excuse me?
Yeah, you declare developer as
Hello. Thank you.
Doing something, you're showing something new.
For a while.
New developer equals developer Tom $0. Language, I like JavaScript. Now I'm calling new developer dot what's an employee. I'm going to move down here to the terminal and invoke. Am I not? Oh. Can I even do this? Let's see let's see what happens. This method is an employee class. What questions do you have with regards to inheritance? So instead of having to rewrite an entire new class every time you're like, as your application scales, you can have like a baseline like employee class, and then as you add on to your application, you don't have to keep, creating new methods if the new class has this. If you want the new class to have like the same methods and everything.
So the employee underscore init is the same as super function.
Yes. So let's do this. This. And this. So super and employee, they have the same functionality. And the benefits of doing super is because it just automatically refers to the parent class. So if you're ever editing or like refactoring your code and you decide to update this parent class's name, let's like call it something else. Another, like employer, like boss or something. You don't have to go through your application and find everywhere employee is located at. You just kind of have to change. Yeah.
Can you change parent classes?
Like a parent class.
Right.
Like
So
like a grandfather, like child.
You have a class for an animal, and then some class for dog.
Yes.
And a dog is an animal, and then you also have a lab, which is a dog, but a lab is also an animal.
Yes.
Right.
So it inherits everything on the
So
It can keep
super
changing.
would go only one level up in the.
Yeah, that was actually a question.
Yeah,
so
You can use that.
I don't know actually.
Okay.
Something.
Google.
Yeah.
Google it. Just That's fun. That's amazing.
So if we have no more questions, let's jump into. Oh, yep.
So inheritance is the one-way street.
Yeah. So like, just like a father and a son or whatever. You can't give traits to your father.